Yeah, I'm not building Saitama. Okay, jokes aside, there used to be a way to build him that kinda worked with the open hand monk. Tulok did an old video on it, so you can go check that out. But I feel like building Saitama at this point just kinda defeats the purpose. And it also wasn't gonna work. Anything with a good con score could easily pass the save, and the ability doesn't even work like that anymore. So, eh. And that's not to say that Saitama isn't a good character or goes through his own journey, but for Saitama that journey has already happened and we only ever get glimpses of it, like his first fight with the creepy crab guy or some of his training. And most of the other builds I've seen related to him heavily rely on magic items or using obscure rules to break the stat cap. And if you're familiar with the series, I really don't use magic items, and neither does Saitama. He got there through good old hard work. That, and I don't think your party would have all that much fun if you kept showing up to the fight and one-punching everything before combat even got started.
Not again. All it took was one punch. Damn it!
So instead of the One Punch Man, we are going to be looking at some of the other strong people in the show, whose job it is to actually fight monsters and protect people, even if they end up just holding the monster off until Saitama shows up and one-punches it. These are the S-class heroes, but not all of them. I'm not going to be doing that. Instead, we're going to go over a few of my favorites, starting with Saitama's apprentice himself, Genos the Demon Cyborg. Now, something you should know about One Punch Man, if you haven't watched it already, is that it's satire, playing off of and joking about a lot of tropes in media. Saitama has overwhelming strength, what he's always wanted, but he is beyond bored with it because nothing's a challenge anymore. No matter how strong an enemy seems, it only ever takes one punch. Well, unless you're this random mosquito. And Genos falls into this, having a super long and complicated backstory with being poor but content until his town is attacked by a cyborg and he was the only survivor.
Enough, you idiot! Shorten this stupid story to 20 words or less!
Gee, okay. Angry cyborg, dead family, Genos becomes a cyborg to get revenge. There. And Genos is a strong character, even if the show routinely uses him to show how strong the enemy is, like with the Beetle Boy here. But he is also always getting stronger. Every time he loses, he's rebuilt stronger by Dr. Kusuno with more upgrades. So we get to see him go from just a metal dude with flamethrowers in his hands, to the true S-class demon cyborg that we know by the end of Season 2, who can not only keep up with speed of sound Sonic, but even injure this giant city-sized centipede. I think all of this gives us a pretty good idea of what to do for his background and species. And as I've been doing, I made Genos a custom background called the Lone Survivor for the tough feat and a few appropriate skills in survival and athletics. But more importantly, after his town was attacked, Genos goes from being a human to a cyborg, or in D&D terms, a warforged. So Genos doesn't have to worry about any of the issues of having a biological flesh and blood body. He doesn't need to eat, sleep, or drink, but he can if he wants to. But what I'm really after going with the Warforged is integrated protection, letting him take a set of armor and kind of merging it with his own cybernetic body, which will be very important once we get to his class, but not quite yet, because we are going to take a super quick look at his stats before that. And I do mean quick. He has very high intelligence and con. Genos is super analytical, and I'm pretty sure he can connect to the Wi-Fi. Plus, he's a cyborg. He feels no pain and was able to keep fighting even after losing an arm. He didn't even react. After that, everything is pretty straightforward aside from his charisma. Along with being super analytical, he is really straightforward and to the point. Not that he's mean or anything, but he just kind of talks like a robot. But really the other ones aren't important. The only ones that he really cares about are going to be his constitution, since again, Genos routinely gets broken down into scrap metal by strong opponents, and his intelligence, because as an artificer, that is going to be his main stat. And I picked this because most everything Genos does can be replicated with either a spell, or more specifically, a few artificer infusions, which add new properties to items. Like turning any regular old helmet, or even like a pair of sunglasses, into a helm of awareness, which is great for his sensors and other stuff that lets him detect fast-moving enemies. But even more than that, if Genos goes with the armor subclass and goes to at least level 9, then he can treat each individual part of his armor as a different item when it comes to infusions. And because of integrated protection, that armor with all those different buffs and changes is now part of his body. The armorer also offers two different types of armor that Genos can swap between. One that's more close ranged and can deal with someone like the Sea King who really needs to be bursted down quickly or he's just going to heal it all back. Or there is another option that's faster for if Sonic's in town and Genos needs to be able to keep up. These are the Guardian, which is the more tanky one with Thunder Gauntlets that deal lightning damage and has a bonus action shield, and the Infiltrator, which comes with a totally not a gun in the form of a lightning launcher that has some really good range, and is a great match for his incineration cannons, increases his speed, and makes him sneakier. And thanks to the armor modification feature I mentioned before, both of these sets can be heavily modified for whatever fight Genos needs. But given how Genos fights, he's probably going to be sticking to the Guardian more, and I went ahead and gave him these infusions with it. He's going to be using the Arcane Propulsion Armor infusion for the base, which not only adds extra damage to his punches, but also gives him a rocket punch, so his arms can be fired off, punch somebody in the face, and then return to him. But after that, he's going to have a Helm of Awareness for scanning, Boots of the Winding Path for a super fast, almost teleportation speed at short range, and Enhanced Weapon just to put on the fists for better punching. He's also got a few Replicate Magic items, since Artificers can also do that. Now, Genos isn't quite done yet. He is going to be a pretty high level since he is an S-Class hero, and I'm just realizing that I made 4 of these guys, so let's maybe speed things up a little bit. Artificer covers a lot of stuff we want for Genos, but of course being level 14 means he gets 3 ASIs to increase his stats and pump up his build a little bit. Plus we need to prepare for a few more things. And since Genos is usually in melee combat despite being a caster, he is going to grab Warcaster for a +1 to int, and so he can keep concentration a little bit more easily. And to make sure his fire spells like Firebolt, Burning Hands, and Scorching Ray have a bit more consistent damage, he's going to grab Elemental Adept Fire at level 8, and lastly at level 9, a +2 bump to his intelligence with his last ASI. This maxes out his intelligence right before we jump over to a new class, so he has the best punches he can get on top of a higher spell attack roll and spell save DC. And yeah, he also gets other important Artificer stuff like Flash of Genius for quick changes to strategy, later on the ability to store spells in items, but this one is more for emergencies like storing a grease spell in his shoes. But the only issue here is that Artificer spells are kinda lacking. They're more of a support-based class, and Genos needs to be able to blast away hordes of bugs or giant fishmen with enough firepower to turn a mountain into a canyon. And while we can't quite get to that level, D&D just doesn't scale that high normally, we can get a few more choice spells of Genos's with his last 6 levels. And he's going to be putting those levels into the Evoker Wizard, mostly for spells like Fireball, Haste, Fly, and a few others, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I forgot which spells came from which list. They're kind of similar lists aside from a few things, but just make sure you get the right ones from the right lists and you should be fine. Not that I've ever respected the boundaries of spell lists. Unfortunately, Genos did miss out on a few things by multiclassing, like having 6 magic items and a few more upgrades to his armor, but Genos is still a powerhouse. With an average of around 50 damage every turn, sure, it's not the highest damage per turn I've done, far from it, but it is still solid and consistent. Over the course of a few rounds, you are going to wear things down unless they are resistant or flat out immune to your damage. And hey, if you get out DPS'd, at least Dr. Kusino can rebuild you harder, better, faster, and stronger.
Again! No way!
Come on, I'm hungry. Time for lunch? Let's grab some udon noodles.
Unbelievable.
Anyways, as always, just a quick reminder to not only subscribe for more content like this, but also that we have a huge 35% discount for homing the dude. Right now, the Wandering Tavern has a bunch of cool NPCs, magic items, plot hooks, all that great stuff, and sometime soon we should be hearing about their next project, so keep an ear out for that. And of course, code GMG will work on that as well for a 35% off. Also, if you want to grab the teams that I'm making, you can do that on my Patreon, linked below. The tiers range from $1 all the way up to $20 if you really want to see something specific. Okay, let's get back to the S-Class heroes, since there are a few more to go, and my favorite is yet to come. Now let's see who's next up.
Get lost.
What's with the sassy lost child?
Hold it right
Yo,
there!
hey, wait, I'm sorry.
I have no idea
Tatsumaki,
how
the
you-
Tornado of Terror. The #2 hero at the association, and she has earned that moniker by scaring anyone and everyone who she comes in contact with. Not only by just being extremely intimidating despite her size, but also through her psychic powers, able to create storms, pull huge meteors out of space, and redirect an entire volley of alien missiles back up at the ship that fired them. And like with other heroes in the show, we only get a basic backstory for her. In her case, Tatsumaki was experimented on because of her psychic powers, only to be saved by another hero named Blast. And obviously, being treated like an experiment as a child is gonna mess you up a little bit. So even though she's a hero and helps people, Tatsumaki has, well, she comes with her own issues like having a temper shorter than she is, and being extremely overprotective of her little sister, who is also a hero. And yes, this is her younger sister, anime logic. But despite these experiments, Tatsumaki is still a human. So I went ahead and gave her the lucky feat because, well, none of the other ones really seemed fitting, and she already took Magic Initiate from her background, so yeah. Tatsumaki's stats are also going to be pretty one note since we don't really see a lot of her outside of a few times when she shows up and wrecks shop. So her stats are going to look like this, with good mental stats and okay con, just because she's kind of going to need it. And of course her main stat is going to be charisma. Sure, she's mean, but she knows what to say, and she can be pretty scary. But mostly it's because everyone's terrified of her. Now with Tatsumaki's power set, that being mostly telekinesis and other related abilities, like creating barriers and restraining targets, most of that is going to come in the form of spells. Spells that most, if not all of them, can be gotten from a single class. And if you know how stats work and what classes need what, you know that's going to be the Sorcerer, which not only gives her a great option for her telekinetic abilities with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, but also lets her mold and modify her spells with metamagic. With features like Psionic Sorcery making it so she doesn't have to use any components on certain spells unless they cost money, Psionic Defenses making her stronger against other espers by giving her resistance to psychic damage, and a bunch more stuff. And just for reference, the creator has stated that Tatsumaki's powers are so strong, she could rip an entire city out of the ground, so I think I have my work cut out for me. But on a slightly more doable level, she can fly by just lifting herself with telekinesis, make barriers ranging from a small personal barrier to one that covers an entire city. She's telepathic, so even if you try to ignore her, she can yell directly into your brain. And the most useful of all that I'm sure we all wish we could have, she can control the TV with her mind, so no remote needed. Most of these are pretty easy to get, like basic telekinesis and telepathy with the feats telekinetic and telepathic, both giving a +1 to her charisma. Her barriers can be a little bit more varied though, with spells like Shield, Counterspell, and Globe of Invulnerability. But again, we don't see a lot of her fights in the show just yet, so let's look at what we do have to get a better idea of where to put Tatsumaki. Just a hint, it's going to be pretty high. So let's start with the feat that is technically less impressive, at least from a D&D standpoint. During an alien invasion, this ship fired every cannon it had straight down at the ground to kill the heroes on the ground. Tatsumaki was having none of their BS and simply stopped their barrage mid-flight like it was nothing, and with a single finger launched all of them back at the ship, with the same or even more force than when they were fired. Her powers have also been compared to this weird alien guy who could make black holes, and she outdoes him pretty easily from what I understand. Now in D&D terms, there are a couple spells that could work, like the telekinesis spell, but that only works on so much stuff at once, and I'm pretty sure each and every one of these missiles weighs way more than 1,000 pounds. But I do like the idea of the 7th level spell, Reverse Gravity, which, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It reverses gravity in an area. And this being a level 7 spell puts her at least level 13. Which does mean she gets a total of 3 ASIs, the first 2 we already talked about with the telekinetic and telepathic feats, and the third one goes into Warcaster for better concentration, which is really important when she's flying by her own power. Oh, and speaking of flying, Tatsumaki is pretty much always doing it. Even when she's just casually moving around the association, she's floating a little bit above the ground so she can look down on people. And if she wants to do that without burning a bunch of spell slots, she does have an option at level 14 with Revelation in Flesh, which does have a few different options, but the only one we really care about is Glistening Flight, letting Tatsumaki fly at her walking speed for up to 10 minutes at a time, no concentration needed. So now she can focus on other spells, and she even glows like she does when she's using her powers. But even with all this, there are a few things that put her at a much higher level. First off is her namesake, the Tornado of Terror. She is able to create massive vortexes and actual tornadoes pretty much on a whim, pulling anything and everything into the center so she can crush them all at once. And thankfully, Tatsumaki's subclass does actually cover this with a level 18 feature, Warping Implosion, where she teleports up to 120 feet away and forces everything nearby where she just was to make a strength save or be yanked towards the center of that spot and take force damage. Perfect for setting up a forced cage or just getting everyone in a single spot for a meteor strike, which she can do. During her introduction, Tatsumaki absolutely disrespected this Godzilla-looking guy when he claimed that she couldn't kill him and that it would take a meteor to do so. So she just casually, while on the phone, pulls a meteor from space at possibly faster than light speeds and hits him in the face with it, turning the giant lizard into a fossil. And then she just leaves for a meeting like she didn't casually break every law of physics she could in one go. And it's not all that often that I get to work on a character that actually summons full-on meteors from the sky to crush their enemies. And of course, with Meteor Storm being a level 9 spell, this puts Tatsumaki at least level 17. But I think there are grounds to make her even stronger, aside from the manga stuff that we haven't seen yet. And the main thing contributing to this is that Tatsumaki is always using her powers. She flies wherever she wants to go, uses telekinesis to pick stuff up, and even uses her powers to control her TV. She also has a lot of control over her powers with seemingly very little limitations. Which is where a super early sorcerer feature called Innate Sorcery comes in, something I really like. It's really just a buff state for sorcerers to help separate them more from wizards and other casters. This 1 minute buff normally just ups your spell save DC by 1 and gives you advantage on spell attack rolls you make while in it. And usually this can only be used up to 2 times per day. And seeing as how Genos gets imprinted into walls just by her casually tossing him, I think it's safe to say that she uses this a lot. But more than just her using a random buff state, the level 20 feature for sorcerers, Arcane Apotheosis, builds off of this, letting Tatsumaki add a free metamagic option to any spell without spending any points, which either frees her up to double up on metamagic thanks to Sorcery Incarnate letting her put 2 on one spell, or she can put all of those sorcery points she's saving into changing the time limit on her innate sorcery from 1 minute to around 10 minutes. Because once her initial 2 uses are up, she can spend 2 sorcery points to activate it again, giving her another minute, meaning she can always be buffed. Now, to finish off this build, I am once again ignoring the rules of a spell list for a singular spell. And this time around, it is for the spell Storm of Vengeance, which progresses from just a little thunder all the way to a full-blown hurricane complete with hail, 6 lightning strikes of 10d6 damage, and acid rain. Keep in mind, Storm of Vengeance is a level 9 spell, so if you want a slightly tamer version of it, just grab the Whirlwind spell. It should serve just as well to throw your enemies through walls. And I think that's all pretty clear evidence as to why you don't mess with Tatsumaki, the Tornado of Terror.
I know Zombie Man doesn't die when he gets killed, so why are we even having this conversation?
Oh, I get it now. She knew that Zombie Man could regenerate and was just enjoying herself. But what I want to know is, what would cause Tornado to drink herself to that point?
You know, you gotta wonder why she'd do something so crazy. All right, you shouldn't be drinking to begin with. Little kids should just have orange juice or something.
What? Listen, you!
I'll go order one for you right now.
Tornado's pride got hurt, so in an act of retaliation, she forced herself to drink more, despite its flavor.
So if any of you are familiar with my old channel, Game Master's Domain, you may also know that I made an entire subclass kind of based off of the S-class hero, Metal Bat. It's called the Path of Pain, and it is all about taking damage and then using that to fuel your rage and make you stronger. It can also theoretically hit for like 500 plus damage if you really go out of your way to break it, but that is purely hypothetical. But we're not going over the homebrew today, we are going to take a closer look at Metal Bat and see what he's actually got going on for him. And at least for me, Metal Bat is one of my favorite character tropes, the actual good guy delinquent. Yeah, he swings first and asks questions later and can be pretty rude, but he actually does want to help people and be a hero. And Metal Bat does have a few soft spots, notably for his sister and his cat. He also has a damn near unbreakable fighting spirit. This boy never backs down unless his little sister is nearby, since he's got a very strict no violence around her policy, even if that means stopping mid-swing on a guy who was trying to kill him. Before becoming a hero, he mostly took jobs as a bodyguard, since who doesn't want a guy who can not only take a bullet for you, but start playing baseball with the shooter's head right afterwards. And while I could go the easy route and just call Metal Bat a human, I think something that's a little bit more fitting with his ability to just be too angry to die is better, which means Metal Bat is going to be a half-orc, or I guess those aren't a thing anymore. Either way, he's going to be an orc and get relentless endurance. And because Metal Bat takes so much damage on a regular basis, usually ending up as a bloody mess by the end of his fights, he's going to have a really good con score along with strength. Obviously, he's going to be a strength boy when he's swinging around a bat like that. And just for reference, Metal Bat doesn't just get roughed up. He gets tossed across the city by a giant centipede.
Oh, that's how.
And then takes multiple kill shots from a guy trained under Silverfang, another S-Class hero. And the guy that took out Tank Top Master, yet another S-Class hero. He can counteract things that affect his mental state by bashing his own head in with his bat, and the more damage Metal Bat takes, the stronger he gets. He's also incredibly fast, but not as fast as Sonic or someone like Bang. And that speed also helps him with his reaction time, again going blow for blow with Garo and just making him incredibly hard to surprise attack. And in that same fight, Metalbat got so strong from continuously taking hits from Garo that if his sister hadn't shown up right when she did, Metalbat would have caved Garo's skull in right there, ending the Hero Hunter long before he could truly become a monster. And that ability to not only get stronger as he gets hit, but the ability to just keep getting up, over and over, each time not only hitting back harder, but becoming harder to knock down. This is his fighting spirit. As long as Metalbat has the will to keep fighting and he's not overwhelmed before it can build up, he's not going down. So if you want to kill him, you better do it in one shot, because you're not getting a second chance. And most of this, outside of the actually getting stronger when you are closer to death, is really easy to replicate. And I do mean really easy, all with a single class combined with one of my favorite subclasses, the new Frenzy Barbarian. So let's go over some of the features of this class and see what matches up with Metalbat's abilities. First off, durability. Barbarians get a d12 hit die and get to use their con for AC. Combine that with half damage from rage, and you already have a really tanky boy. Danger sense for dex saves, and relentless attacks, since Metalbat is more likely to just tank a hit if it means he can also get a solid hit back. Frenzy just lets him hit harder, which is always fun, hitting for up to 4d6 extra damage once per turn, fast movement to just be faster, and one of my favorite new/updated features is Brutal Strike, again letting him hit harder and start taking kneecaps. And when it comes to constantly straddling the line between life and death, nothing quite fits more than Relentless Rage. Letting Metalbat just not go down when he should, and combining that with the level 10 Frenzy feature, Retaliation, means you can actually remake the ending to Metalbat's fight with Garo. On top of that, Persistent Rage keeps his fighting spirit going a lot longer, his Brutal Strikes get even stronger, now doing 2d10, and just for the fun of it, since I made the other two level 20, I think I'll do the same for Metalbat, giving him another 40 hit points with the Boon of Fortitude, and whenever he heals, he gets to add his Constitution modifier to that healing. Speaking of which, I kind of forgot feats and ASIs, so let's do that real quick, and he gets a total of 4 of them. One of them is used for the Great Weapon Master feat, up his strength and just hit things harder. The second one goes into the Durable feat, meaning he can heal himself a ton on top of, again, upping his Constitution. And lastly, for his con, the Crusher feat is perfect for whatever weapon you decide to give him. I would say a Maul is probably the best option, but you could also just use a club. And lastly, a +2 bump to his strength to max it out, or almost max it out, because the 20th level feature for Barbarians is Primal Champion, upping both his strength and con by 4. Putting his strength at 24 or +7, and his con at 20. And with that con score, the Boon of Fortitude, and Tough, that means he's going to have an average of around 320 hit points. Or if you want to go crazy and say you rolled max hit points on all of these, it's going to be somewhere around 420 HP. Do you know how much HP that is? That is more HP than an ancient Copper Dragon, just shy of an ancient Bronze Dragon, and he can heal himself for 1d12 + 10 every turn. So sure, you might deal more damage than Metalbat, but he is going to outlast you, because that 325 hit points might as well be almost 700, not even accounting for his resistances. So either don't piss him off, or pray to whatever god will listen that his sister is nearby.
Save my son! That monster has him!
That's the Hero Association executive, all right.
And that must be his kid. Perfect. Let's take the Runted Veil.
Neither one of them is going anywhere, understand? They haven't paid their bill yet.
And that brings us to my favorite S-Class hero. Go ahead, I'll give you a few seconds to guess. Is it Super Ally Darkshine, Silverfang, maybe Atomic Samurai, or even Blast? Well, if you picked any of them, well, you're wrong, because for me, it's King. The strongest man alive, or at least that's what everyone thinks, because King, despite his intimidating aura and battle scars, is a coward with no powers. He just happens to always be in the wrong place at the right time, and somehow takes credit for Saitama's kills. Like the very first villain of the series, Vaccine Man, who of course was one-punched by Saitama, but since he ran off, probably to go reach a sale or something, King was found covered in the blood of Vaccine Man and was given the credit. He just looked scary and unintentionally bluffed his way into S-Class hero status. And it's not like he's doing it to be malicious or anything. He's just too deep into this web of lies that somehow everyone believes and he can't get out of it now. Even if he wanted to, and I'm pretty sure he does. Now you might think that this would cause me to not build King, because, he has no powers. But I decided to have a little fun with this. Even if all this stuff is just happening around King and he's just in the wrong place at the right time, he does use his reputation and the ability to appear powerful / intimidating to his advantage. He's also just really good at lying, or everyone who listens to him got impromptu lobotomies, but I'm going to assume he's just good at lying. Also, just going to get this out of the way now, he is a human with both the lucky feat from his background and the alert feat from being a human, since he's always scared of his secret being discovered. His stats are also not important aside from charisma. If he's going to lie to the faces of some of the strongest people on the planet, he better be damn good at it. So high charisma, and honestly that's about it, except for a low con, because King gets winded walking up the stairs. So if King is going to fake it till he makes it, I think the best option for him is actually going to be the Bard. And I have one specific spell in mind to make sure he never fails a deception check. But first, a few other things that just feel right for a guy whose entire strategy is hoping you are more scared of him than he is of you. These are mostly just spells like Phantasmal Force, Fear, and Phantasmal Killer, since his reputation as the world's strongest man is so well known that most people just forfeit before the fight even starts. But also, whenever there's any real fight with the other S-Class heroes, he typically sits in the back and just kind of gives them pep talks, so I think the other spell, Motivational Speech, is really good for that. Along the same lines, he has his King Engine, a sound that paralyzes enemies in fear, which is really just his heart hammering in his chest so hard I'm surprised he hasn't had an actual heart attack. So for that, I would suggest spells like Hold Person or Hold Monster. And there's one last spell I wanted besides the main one that really fits with his reputation of being King, the world's strongest man. And that is Yolanda's Regal Presence, making King so utterly terrifying that anyone who gets close to him is forced to their knees and takes psychic damage. You can again attribute this to his King Engine or just having a really scary face when he's scared. Oh, and I did forget to mention it since it's honestly not as important as the spells here, but I did make King a Glamour Bard so he can gaslight and lie his way through stuff even harder. I also made sure to max out his Charisma with a +1 from the actor feat and a +2 ASI. So 20 Charisma with expertise in Deception, Intimidation, Persuasion, and Performance, King has a +15 to all of those skills. Which is great, but not enough. He could still easily get caught off with a bad roll. So to make sure that doesn't happen, King is going to go to level 15 for one spell, Glibness. Not only making it so that he can never roll lower than a 15 on any charisma check, but also making it so that any magic or other effect that would tell if he's lying doesn't work and show that he is in fact telling the truth. With Glibness active, the lowest King can possibly roll on any of those charisma checks is a 30. And with that kind of deception check, I don't think there is a single person on the S-Class hero roster that could even tell he's lying. Meaning King gets to keep his spot as the world's strongest man, all the while he is barely holding it together while everyone else fights a little bit harder to impress him. But really, he just wants to be left alone.
Now this is excitement I can handle.
Hi there, big fella. Input your name, please.
My name, huh? What should I use?
King seems fine to me.
No, not my hero name. Wait. Whoa, what the? Who the heck is this guy? How'd he get in?
Your window was open, so...
Yeah, but I'm 22 floors up.
Okay, that was pretty fun. I don't often get to make level 20 characters, so it's even rare when I make multiple of them in one video. So even if it was a little bit of extra work for me and on my editor's side, I think it was worth it. I also almost didn't make King. At first I had Metal Knight here, but, well, I'm not sure we've ever seen him fight, so yeah. I thought adding a joke character among powerhouses would be kind of fun. Anyway, let's finish this up before my voice dies. As always, I want to thank my testers for looking over these builds, and our new editor, Machete the Goblin King, for putting a ton of work into these videos. It frees up time for me to work on some other stuff and prepare for some IRL things that are happening. Remember, if you want these sheets, you can get them on my Patreon for $1. You'll also get your name in the ending credits for these videos, and you can vote in the polls for what teams you want next. That's going to do it for today, though. I will see you all next time, and as always, have a wonderful day.